Welcome to ESVN, the Emma Sports Vigeland Network show. My name is Emma Vigeland, and welcome to ESVN OT. Subscribe. Put on push notifications, youtube.com/ESVN show. Rate us 5 stars. Do all that fun stuff. Hello, Bradley Alsop.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And we are, I mean, I don't even know what to say about this week in news. It's not
the best time to come back from your bachelor party.
No. And you're still operating at like half speed and having to process
Whoa. I should have stayed where I was. I just should have stayed.
Yes, and none of this would have happened if you didn't.
It's my fault. It's the sliding doors. The flap of a butterfly's wings.
I know. Ashton Kutcher taught me all about that.
I just stayed on the party boat.
We're laughing because we've got nothing else at this point, folks.
To keep from crying.
It's just horrible. Horrible violence, destruction, senseless violence.
But enough about the Jets.
Yeah. But seriously, praying for any family affected. Israeli families affected, and Gaza currently, as they're being bombarded by bombs and have no electricity or clean water or fuel. Putting that aside for 1 second, let's talk briefly, very briefly, because I didn't get to catch a ton of either game, but I tuned in a bit. Connor Bedard looking really legit. I mean, I was
2 games in.
I don't know what I was expecting. I know, he's considered a generational talent, but you hear that a lot in the draft. But people were like, who are in the know about prospects, were like, no, this is generational in the way that when McDavid came out, we're talking about generational. And it appears that he's been able to hit the ground running. The fact that he's still a teenager and the maturity that he showed on the ice, it just stuck out to me. And the Chicago Blackhawks, my misgivings with that organization aside, are really in a position to let him develop because he's playing a ton of minutes. I mean, he in his first 2 NHL games, he was averaging 21 plus minutes on ice, which is really good for the development of a young kid. As a Rangers fan, let me say that the Rangers kind of shooting to the top of the lottery with both Kakko and Lafreniere in a very serendipitous way somewhat hurt their development. Kakko, I think, is on a better track, and Lafreniere is a big question mark. A lot of fans are not happy with how he's developed, and part of that is because they've been stuck on the third lines for a long period of time, and Kakko for way too long, because not to make this about the Rangers, but they really needed to be getting these guys top ice time, but at the same time, the Rangers wanted to contend, and so I think it's really hurt the development of these 2 young kids. And they're not near the prospect of what Bedard is, but Lafreniere in particular was pretty heralded coming out. Bedard, though, is going to be able to just run the show. And within, just not to bury the lead here, he had an assist, which was very artfully done in his first game against the Penguins. And then he had a wraparound goal against the Bruins.
Sorry, I was not wincing at anything you were saying. I was wincing because I'm looking at the Chicago Blackhawks roster and seeing the year that Connor Bedard was born.
What year was it?
Take a guess.
2004?
5. It's
unreal.
Just nasty business.
I mean,
but the reason I looked that up is because just to give you an idea, as an example of just how young Bedard is, but also what I think, to the Blackhawks' credit, they've done a good job of surrounding him with a lot of sort of like battle-tested and kind of steady veterans. I mean, you look at the guys on this team, Andreas Athanasiou, Jason Dickinson, who had the winning goal against the Penguins in that first game, Ryan Donato, Nick Foligno. I looked at that because Nick Foligno is literally double Connor Bedard's age.
Yeah.
Nick Foligno is 35. Nick Foligno will be 36 in 2 weeks, and Bedard is 18.
I mean, and he's got to be stuffed on the bottom line there.
Oh, for sure. I would imagine.
But still, just
but then Taylor Hall, Tyler
that
Johnson,
exactly is
Corey Perry.
Taylor Hall is everybody's kind of stopgap forward that
I know
he
it's
seems to
really
not be
bounced
able
around.
to. Yeah,
Stay on a team since where was he prior to the Devils? I forgot what team he was on prior to the Devils.
he went to the Sabres after the Devils, and they traded him to the Bruins. It's hard for me.
Yeah, was it the Oilers?
I
Was he on
think
the
it was
Oilers?
the
Yeah.
Oilers, yeah, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah,
Yes, he was the Oilers. Yeah, I forgot what his origin team was. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you because I think honestly, this basically makes it so that he has a lot of he has a lot of guys on his team with an enormous amount of experience in the league already, where he can sort of just like figure himself out and be the focal point without a lot of like either pressure to elevate a lot of other young rising stars and prospects or kind of like commingle with them. Well, he sort of is that. He is like the young like North Star of the Blackhawks with a lot of veteran backing. So I mean, who's to say how good they'll be? But I think it's a good place for him to start.
But they're not trying to be good this year. They're just trying to make sure that this center is going to be the focal point of their franchise for the foreseeable future, and that he can lead the team like that. I saw some analytics on this front. Natural Stat Trick, which kind of funny name there, said that that Bedard led the Blackhawks against the Bruins with 0.84 expected goals at even strength, which is doubling anyone else on the team, with 4 high danger chances, tripling the rest of the team with 3 rebound attempts and then 1 that went in. And the night before, he led the team in even strength in shots and expected goals and high danger chances and rebound attempts. I mean, that is, as an 18-year-old first line center, or 19-year-old, or however old he is. I think he may be 19 at this point. That's pretty insane. And like you center in hockey, you have to be defensively sound. And I saw made a great play in the defensive zone after he had a bit of a hiccup. He rebounded incredibly well. You have to be able to have the smarts to get back in the defensive zone and make some plays, and then also set up your team offense in ways that are not like that doesn't fall necessarily on the shoulders of the wings. And so that's why being a center in the NHL, I don't know what's more valuable, having an elite top line center or an elite goalie. Either way, it's one of those two positions. And the fact that the Blackhawks have this guy, they really, really hit the lottery, but literally and then just in the figurative sense, because to see a guy look that mature right off the bat, I understood what the hype was, and I just wanted to make a note of that because, NHL starting, and I enjoy my NHL.
It's I mean, it's of course encouraging, obviously, with a very small sample size, but also given the hype around him, as you were saying on the Majority Report when we were doing a little preview. He's definitely the most highly touted prospect since Connor McDavid, and at least from Connor McDavid since Sidney Crosby. So to see him kind of look the part already is really cool to see, and I'm sure as he just continues to get his sea legs as the regular season progresses, I'm sure we'll see more. But as to what you were saying about some of the underlying statistics and the chances he's the chances he's generating and things like that, and all the responsibilities that the center has, he's also. It's amazing to see with the McDavid and Crosby comparisons a little bit, like the last time I remember guys being as like fast and like kind of light on their feet in skating in that way was probably, I mean, because Crosby I was a little bit too young almost to like remember him as like a rookie or like a like a young player, but like definitely like McDavid was the last guy where I was like, he's insanely fast.
McDavid is the most dominant player. I mean,
like McDavid, like the way just like skating. When you watch McDavid skate, you're like, oh, he is on another. He's playing a different sport than some of these guys.
I mean, I'm trying to think if there's any comparison. It probably LeBron James in his heyday. I agree. That's the only. Those are the two guys I can think of.
So seeing Bedard kind of having that almost like take your breath away, the speed and kind of like the gliding he does on the ice is like exciting to see, and that like and that he's so young, and we will see so much more of that.
Exactly.
In the decade plus to come probably.
Yeah, we're talking elite talent here. So just cool to see.
For sure.
Now back to what everybody cares about.
To the bread and butter. Back to the kitchen table issues.
Yeah, back to the slightly problematic sport that we cannot quit, the NFL. And the last week, just gaining ground on Bradley against the spread. I'm just doing it ever so slightly. Creeping through. I went 2-1.
I'd like you
went
to
1
stop.
and 2. Well, I will not. Hopefully,
I demand it. Actually,
the results last week were that I lost Patriots +1 very badly. They did not
that was
score
tough.
any points against the Saints.
There was no chance for a +1.
I was shocked to see how that game went, and looks like I thought Bill Belichick would respond, but it looks like he's lost the locker room. So there's that. But the other two bets I hit: Bengals -3, Chiefs -3.5. Bradley did not hit Ravens -4. That is unfortunate because
it was devastating, actually. But
they completely gave that game away. The Texans did not hit at +1.5. They lost by 2, so you lost by a half point.
Another savage beat.
And
Absolutely brutal.
You won the Colts +2.5. So yeah, but like we've had this issue with we both bet the Packers -1.5 in that game where they came back to beat the Saints,
Yes,
and they
right.
won by 1 point.
Right,
It's
right.
it's just brutal. It's just absolutely brutal. But
We're getting some nasty beats. Nasty.
we're turning it around this week, or at least
Very
I
nasty.
am. Very nasty. So mean, so nasty. Let's play our little graphic
Should
and
we run
then
the
let's
tape?
get into
Let's
it.
do it.
Run it.
ESVN Stone Cold Lock of the Century. All week.
I love seeing every week. I love seeing our heads crash into each other to create an enormously combustible explosion of fire.
My guy, Dan from the internet, helping us out with that very professional graphic. Now let's turn to our locks. This is what we have for the week, baby. I'm going big on the favorites this week. And I'm going with one of the biggest favorites as my first lock. And just to put that up there, I'm 6-9, and Bradley has fallen to 4-10-1. I'm sorry to tell you that, Bradley, but yes, you have fallen.
4-10-1. Jesus Christ! I got to stop betting.
Well, you're not doing it in real life. You're just doing it for the
Certainly
show. So that works out. But here we're at. Here we are. Okay. I'm betting that the Miami Dolphins beat the Carolina Panthers by 2 touchdowns. The spread is 13.5 points. I am taking those points, -13.5. I mean, I just saw the Dolphins beat down my Giants, and they ended up covering the spread, even though for a little while the Giants did hang around. But this team, it's like they don't even punt. And when they do punt, it's like you're seeing some sort of anomaly or a UFO or something like that. It's just the nobody understands how to respond. They seem to score on every time that the offense goes out on the field. Yes, Devon Achane is not going to be in the lineup, but they're bringing back Jeff Wilson Jr., who is also very fast and quite familiar with the Shanahan-esque scheme. And not that it would even matter. I mean, just run it with Raheem Mostert, run it with Jeff Wilson Jr.
Please run it with Mostert.
Throw.
I have Mostert in fantasy, so definitely run it with Mostert.
Okay, well, we may be on rivaling sides here, but we'll put that aside for now. I just don't understand how, honestly, this spread is smaller than the Giants against the Bills, which is now 14 or 15 points.
That's bizarre. That doesn't make
the Carolina Hurricanes, Carolina Panthers are the only team that have not won in the NFL this entire season.
And
and the Giants are a mess. I'm not putting that aside, but like the Dolphins are I think more capable of doing a beatdown on the Carolina Panthers. Gosh,
got hockey on the brain.
I mean, hockey on the brain. Than the Bills, where Daboll has familiarity with that system. So that's just why I feel like this should be an even bigger spread. And I'm going to take 2 touchdowns against Bryce Young, who threw 2 interceptions against Detroit last week. And he's only thrown 5 touchdowns. He's thrown 4 interceptions, and he just looks bad, as I've been saying every week.
That doesn't look good, and also this offense has no firepower, and the offensive line has been extremely underwhelming relative to expectations. And
Adam Thielen's the only guy that can make a play, and he can barely.
And he's 34,
and he
he's
can't
old.
he can't break a tackle or
Right.
get yak. I mean, he'll catch things because he's sound and he's a veteran, but he doesn't have any speed.
And the Lions really took it to them last week, and I think that as much as I love the Lions offense, I think the Dolphins offense is better than the Lions offense, and I also think the Dolphins defense is better than the Lions defense. So I don't think this will be particularly close. I always stress out about this large of a line, but I don't think it's that outlandish to think that the Dolphins could put up in a large amount of points.
Yeah, the Carolina Panthers are becoming my new Arizona Cardinals
the-
of a
the-
team
the
to
whipping
bet
post.
against every week. So that's what I'm going with my first bet. Now you go, Bradley.
All right, so I will be taking the Bengals -3 over the Seahawks. I know it's in Seattle. I think I'm just really I'm really banking on the week 6 Burrow-sance as we could call it that has seemingly happened for the last 3 seasons, that the Bengals stumble out of the gate for the first 5 games and then just become one of the best teams in the league afterwards. So I'm trying to preempt it by making this bet.
So you're taking the Bengals in Seattle as favorites.
Correct.
This does not make me feel comfortable and would not make me feel comfortable.
I think that Burrow is back. He's moving better. The Jamar Chase Burrow connection was really cooking on Sunday. I still think the Seahawks are great. I'm not. It's nothing against the Seahawks because I still really like the Seahawks offense, but I still have faith in this defense to get right as well, or to get even more right under Lou Anarumo. And I think that this is just to me that I guess this is just for me as a speculative exercise that if I do hit on this bet, that similar magic that comes over the Bengals this time of year will sustain, and that I'll look back on this as a bellwether week for the Bengals when the playoffs roll around. But if I'm completely wrong, then there was nothing to this.
Yes, right. This didn't happen. But I mean, I just think the Seahawks are pretty damn good. But if I, as I've been saying, gun to my head, I guess I would pick the Bengals because Burrow looked so damn good last week.
He and beyond just the connections, restoring, like in terms of like the passes he was hitting, which were like not available to him the weeks before. Even on a few times where he was either taking a sack or kind of running away from pressure if there was nothing there, he just looked so much more capable of like evading pressure and like using his legs than he was at all in the last few weeks. So like even just the mobility to have even a 10%, 15% more mobility that he had before is enough for me to think that like this offense can continue to look different.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
we'll see.
I hear you on that. My other pick here is the Minnesota Vikings at Chicago -2.5.
Speaking of whipping posts.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Chicago Bears, good for them. They broke their, I don't know, when was the last time they actually won a game? Because
I believe it was last year at some point.
Last year at some point, but they were the worst team in the league last year. So it's been a long streak. Maybe, Bradley, you can look that up as I speak right now. I think the Bears are getting a little bit overrated against the spread here based on last week's performance, where, I mean, the Commanders might be the most inconsistent team in the NFL. We talked about it last week. And then also the fact that Justin Jefferson got injured is changing this line.
Their last win came on October 24th of last year, a 33-14 win over the Patriots.
So it was nearly a full year,
almost a year to the day
before since they last won. So the Vikings, I just have more trust in what Kevin O'Connell is going to do over there, and I think they will compensate for the loss of Justin Jefferson.
Say, yeah.
And, I don't have a ton of faith in KJ Osborne as a player, but I do have a ton of faith that he will get the ball a lot. And the Chicago defense has also, Addison is clearly the kind of player that they want to feature. The Chicago defense is 31st in the league against the pass. And the other reason that I'm taking the Vikings is that I trust Brian Flores to do enough smart things to get Fields to throw an interception or two. Flores is one of the smarter defensive coordinators in the entire NFL. And so when you can get Fields in an uncomfortable position, I trust that the defense is going to be able to be opportunistic. They had a better showing than expected against the Chiefs, I would say. They had a good game plan. I hope there's not a ton more winnable games on the Vikings schedule. This is a way for them to get to 2 wins on the season. So I like them to win by a field goal, and I'm surprised that the line is this small.
Well, I still, even with Jefferson out of the game, like you said, I still think the offensive scheme is pretty sound in Minnesota. And I think KJ Osborne, despite being limited, is pretty good and can, offer some explosiveness going down the sideline usually, or kind of like coming over the middle of the field. I still really, like you said, even though he's not maybe my favorite of like the little guys that came out of the first round wide receiver class last year, I still think Jordan Addison is very good.
He's exactly what they want.
Yeah,
he's like
exactly.
a Rams-like receiver
Totally,
in that
like
he's maybe
slot.
not a physical freak, but he is fast
Very
and
fast.
very good route runner. That's
Absolutely.
what they want. Just run the routes
sure.
we design. Yeah.
And so, as you said, if the Vikings defense can do kind of what really ushers in the weaknesses of Justin Fields, which he's even obviously proclaimed himself, which is that when he starts to think too much, he kind of becomes a little robotic and kind of stops stops staying within the flow of the game, which leads him to make mistakes. I think they can definitely make him pretty decently uncomfortable because the offensive line for the Bears is extremely hurt and has a lot of injuries on it. Was not amazing prior to those injuries, and this Bears defense is still pretty much anonymous.
Yeah.
Outside of a few guys. So I think it would be.
And they have a defensive head coach. I mean, Eberflus has got to go
his days
at the
are
end of
numbered.
the year.
I think
Please.
his days are numbered. But it would, to me also, just in terms of this game, I think it would be. What's interesting about this matchup is that it could be a get right game for the Vikings, or it could see. If they lose, it could show like catastrophe on the horizon.
Oh yeah, and then it's a sell thing.
Right. Like if they lose to this iteration of the Bears team after last week, it could be like, oh, we need to really reevaluate where we're going as a franchise, especially with Jefferson on IR, like knowing he's not coming back for a few games.
And yeah, exactly. And his whole contract situation plays into that as well.
Right.
So you're taking the Raiders.
I'm taking the Raiders over the
home.
Patriots -3.
Okay, I mean,
and similar with riding the trends from last week. I am riding the wave of the Patriots suck and are bad and might be one of the worst teams in the league. And even though I have very little confidence in a lot of the aspects and components of this Raiders team, I think they are feisty enough to not lose to Mac Jones and a defense that gave up 38 points?
Yeah, it was something in
to the New Orleans Saints, to the Derek Carr led New Orleans Saints offense,
right?
Without Jamal Williams,
which is by the way has been criticized as being a pretty basic West Coast offense, which is something that Belichick should be able to scheme for. But the offense is so putrid, and the defense just isn't that fast, and that's the issue here.
I think that the Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Josh Jacobs combination, if Jimmy G cannot make his standard 2 to 5 boneheaded passing plays, will be enough on offense. And I think if last week was any indication, Mac Jones, or if he plays so poorly that Bailey Zappi comes in, will not be enough to again prop this offense up. I think this team is cooked.
Yeah, I hear that. It's also going to be difficult for them to come back given the culture of the Patriots. There's no fun, there's no joy, there's no hope, and that militaristic mindset only works when they're winning. And
I think it starts to grate when there's no upside or no kind of proverbial light at the end of the tunnel despite losing. I think if anything, culturally, it's much harder to maintain that when you're bad.
Yeah,
I think it's almost a sign of a good coach. And I think a good coach.
Look at Matt Patricia.
Right.
I mean, he tried to do that crap in
Detroit. It was not Joe Judge. Neither were successful. In
Everyone
that
was miserable. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You lose the
and
locker
resentful,
room.
and that misery leads to resentment.
Exactly.
No question.
Exactly. And Bill's been able to do that because they've won, but it's been
right. It's been 20 years since the last time they were this bad. Literally 20 years.
The last 2 losses that he experienced were the 2 worst losses of his career, back to back. He broke the record the second time, and
that feels different. It's not just losing; it's like losing historically. For
and the
last,
twice in a row. I heard this statistic the other day. The 6 worst losses in differential of Bill Belichick's career have all occurred after 2020.
Go figure. I wonder what happened in 2020.
I know. Maybe I was wrong. Anyway, let's not address that. Okay, so I am picking the Eagles to beat the Jets by a touchdown, -6.5. The fun fact here: the Jets, in their entire history as a franchise,
Is that a fun fact?
have never beat the Philadelphia Eagles.
Literally never. 0-12.
0-12.
0-12 against the Philadelphia
and they don't meet
Eagles.
too many times because one is an NFC team and one is an AFC team. But I am going to bet that it turns into 0-13 this week. Losing Elijah Vera Tucker for the year with a torn Achilles on an already injured and difficult, not performing well offensive line with Zach Wilson still being prone to making a questionable decision or two, even though I do think he's looking better than he had previously. It's just Jalen Carter, all those freaks on
Jalen
the
Carter,
Fletcher Cox,
Fletcher
is still
Cox,
on the team.
Josh Sweat, N'Kobe Dean, Nolan
Hassan
Smith,
Reddick.
Hassan Reddick. Yeah, it's going to be a tough day at the office for this patchwork group of offensive linemen.
They can just come at you in waves. And then on the other side of the ball, the Jets defense, oddly, despite having so many defensive, well, maybe not enough defensive tackles, I will say. They have a lot of pass rushers that they can cycle in, but they've been struggling against the run as a team. And goddamn, can the Eagles run that football if they want to.
Which is almost odd because it's partially like this Jets defense was seemingly designed to almost be like a team that gets sacks but can also like plug the run a little bit. Like there was as you said, the depth of rushing talent is like 9 deep basically, and yet they've still struggled with certain running backs just to be able to consistently get them down. I mean, Ramondre Stevenson was running on them. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it was
even with that line.
Exactly. Like it was so.
And the Eagles have the best offensive line I've maybe ever seen in my life.
Pacheco was almost more than Mahomes. Pacheco in the Chiefs game was having much more success on the ground even than Mahomes was having through the air basically for most of the game. So like it's definitely true. Like if it's both lines that I think tell the story of this game. I mean, like in the sense that we were just talking about the defensive line, but to say nothing of what's still probably the best offensive line in the league, and as we were saying on Monday, maybe the best offensive line of the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Like so, if any team is going to get going on the ground and going to kind of stifle the Jets' ability to rush, it's the Eagles.
Yeah. So that's why I'm going with them. Philadelphia -6.5.
And then for me, I am taking the Chargers +2 against the Cowboys.
Monday Night Football.
I think this is slightly wishful thinking that Justin Herbert will be upgraded from questionable, because it seems like I don't.
Well, they're coming off their bye.
Yeah, I think it should be, and it's Monday. It should be okay. It is the Monday game, right?
Yeah. He plays through everything.
Yeah, right. He was playing through his ribs were like
broken last year, and he was playing through it.
So. I think they'll cover. I don't necessarily know if it's a guarantee that they'll win, but like especially after the 49ers game, it's making me think that the Cowboys defense is just slightly more vulnerable than how they were looking prior to the 49ers matchup. And if any team or if any member of an offensive staff might have the drop a little bit on Mike McCarthy's offensive philosophy, it might be Kellen Moore.
Good point.
And I guess also Dan Quinn in the sense of like having your guys as the offensive coordinator where Kellen Moore was last year playing against Dan Quinn's defense. Like he definitely will have some sort of intel, I think, going into the game. And as much, I still think the Chargers offense has looked good. They're obviously injured in the sense that, Herbert's a little banged up. Mike Williams is out for the season. Austin Eckler is
back.
He is back. So that's
He's
encouraging.
expected to play.
Eckler being back is definitely encouraging. They're not as creative still. They're not as dynamic as I want them to be. I think that's just like a Staley situation. And I'm not so high on this defense. I just think I saw way more cracks in the foundation on both sides of the ball in the San Francisco game, and I mean, we're talking about the best team in the league, but I'm saying in terms of the lack of explosiveness or punch outside of the Micah Parsons element of the defense, as well as what happens when Dak's bread and butter, where the passes to the flat, the screen passes,
it's so simple.
The dinking and
it's
dunking.
Classic Mike McCarthy.
Right. If Dak has to spread the field, if Dak has to go intermediate, go deep, can he do it? So I know it's definitely a different beast in terms of the Chargers defense is not the 49ers defense, but I think with a good Herbert performance, with Eckler back, and with maybe Dak not being as accurate or efficient as he was prior to the 49ers game, this will be closer than I maybe anticipated prior to the Niners game.
All right, I hear that. So for a recap, everybody, I'm going with the Miami Dolphins minus 13.5, the Minnesota Vikings minus 2.5, the Philadelphia Eagles minus 6.5. Bradley's going with the Bengals in Seattle minus 3, the Raiders at home against the Patriots minus 3, and the Chargers plus 2 against Dallas. And for Survivor, I'm going with the Miami Dolphins against Carolina, just like I did picking Detroit last week. I'm going with the team that the Carolina Panthers are facing, and Bradley, despite not being sure if the Eagles will cover the spread, still thinks that they will beat the Jets. So Philadelphia is his pick for Survivor.
I'm just siding with history repeating itself.
Understood. I mean, we have a similar mind on that front. Hopefully, at some point, one of us will get over 500, so we don't embarrass ourselves.
It's going to be a long road for me.
Thoroughly, but we are. It's really not that long. It's a quick turnaround. It could be in 2 weeks. You can. Why am I rooting for you? It's just because I like you.
That's nice. That's what we call sportsmanship in the biz, in the industry.
I got to stamp that out. All humanity out of my system in this competition, because we still have not decided on punishment. That's the thing.
Yeah. If anyone has any thoughts, write in.
Yeah. Hey, comment below on this video. Comment below. Look at that.
Give us some comments about what you think we should do. Whoever loses our locks competition.
Yep.
I'm still alive in Survivor, by the way.
You are. I'm so annoyed that the Cowboys. I hate them.
Yeah,
How could they lose to the Cardinals? What is wrong with them? Idiots. I hope they lose.
That's what you get for picking the Cowboys.
And I said at the start of the season I didn't have them making the playoffs, and I looked really dumb to start the year, but maybe not so much now because
we'll see after Monday.
We shall see. Oh, let's go Chargers, baby. All right. Wait, no.
Yeah, let's go Chargers.
Damn it. All right. Still,
you said
let's go
it.
Chargers.
It's official. It's official.
All right. Can't take it. No give backsies.
No kid takes backsies.
Okay. All right, guys. Well.
And just briefly, so we only have one more. Just briefly, we only have one outstanding NL division series left in the MLB playoffs.
That's true.
Unfortunately, the Astros did advance over the Twins. Sad. Astros, and so it will be an interstate matchup between the Astros and the Rangers. And the Rangers who also, which is I'm still happy for them because they've been really bad recently, but it was kind of deflating that
it's a little concerning.
Legendary performance of the Orioles and them getting swept by the Rangers to be Astros Rangers.
Exactly.
And then the Diamondbacks beat the Dodgers again. Another 100-win team going down in the first round. I mean, the division series. Happy for the Diamondbacks though. They're a fun team, with a fun young group, and then we're just still waiting on the Braves and the Phillies. Hopefully the Phillies pull it out.
Me too.
If I have to pick between two of the Mets division rivals, I would rather it be Philly than Atlanta.
Of course. Yeah, I agree with you there. And I don't think the Rangers are going to beat the Astros, but
the Astros, when they get to the playoffs, are sort of like Warriors-esque. They're kind of the Death Star in the
Death Star and the Lone Star.
Exactly. They're not they're the Death Star and the Lone Star state. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said, but I said it in a more catchy way.
No, but you can't. But what could be? The Lone Star is a type of beer. You could be talking about astrology.
End the stream. End the stream. Get out of here.
All right, Emma's about to fire me, so we've got to go.
I don't have that power.
from the show.
We will see you on Monday.
Okay, bye.
Bye.